Hi and welcome to another example of how to use Character Trumps Credentials, which is a free download. The ebook is a free download from our website. Now, in this series, we just demonstrate how you use the book. And in this case, I've opened to the chapter on helping. There's 5 questions. One of them immediately took me to an experience that I had when I was a young Air Force officer. So the question, when has somebody stood by you when it really counted? Well, when I was a young Air Force officer based in Western Australia, I looked after what was called the air movements function. So looking after passenger and cargo handling on all our aircraft travelling in and out of Western Australia. One of the things one of the processes we had in place was we had the ability to fill available seats with people wanting to travel, to return to Sydney and Melbourne on the East Coast on leave or for family events, that sort of thing. But there was only ever a few seats available each week, and there's always a very long queue of people wanting to use those seats. And people would book months in advance. So we looked after that. We were very rigorous about application of that process because obviously lots of opportunity for it to be misused. One morning, we started work at 5 a.m. Unexpectedly, an army officer turned up, a major, and he was in full uniform and he had the Gold Eaglets. He was the staff officer for a senior army officer, and he was looking after that army officer's wife. And he said, Mrs. So-and-so needs a seat back to Sydney, please organise. And I just said there was no way I was going to give that lady a seat, because there was young soldiers, sailors and airmen who earned who earned a tiny salary. And by the way, airfares back in the 80s were very, very expensive. So I stood my ground despite being pressured. They were making phone calls to Canberra and having increasingly senior people ordering me to give her a seat. Unfortunately, they didn't have the power to order me because in my role, I had the decision-making power. And so I just stood my ground and said, no, she's not getting a seat. So I knew that we call it a career limiting move, that my decision was a career limiting move. But my boss at the time, a guy called Andrew Fuchs, I called him, woke him up, got him out of bed and told him the situation. And he said, you are making the right decision. I've got your back. And he absolutely stood by that, even though there was a storm of protests from Canberra saying that I should have given her a seat. It was in fact the right decision. He 100% stood by me, and I'm grateful to this day for him for doing that. Anyway, so that was an experience that was triggered by one of the questions in Character Trumps Credentials. It's a great way to find your own personal stories that help you build rapport and connection. See you next time.